Hello. So we're going on our next session. We'll hear about two very interesting examples. One in Mexico, that is a new development, and one in the UK, that is kind of a new development. Anyway, so our next speaker is Moreno from Perèz, and she will talk about the new panel survey monitoring social deprivation. So you have 10 minutes, including questions. Okay? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank again Alfonso for the invitation. Also, I feel kind of out of place with so many real experts in the field. I'm going to try to do my best to explain the first step I think how to have some longitudinal data. So I'm going to divide my presentation in 4 parts. First, I'm going to talk about some what we do in Coneval, how we measure poverty. Then I'm going to talk about how we designed this study of longitudinal data to measure the 6 social deprivations that we use to measure poverty in Mexico. And then after I explain how the sample was taken, I'm going to talk about some of the main results we have until now. And finally some conclusions of the study. So, what are the main features of the new methodology? It's called new methodology, but it's actually been there since 2008. By law, we require to measure poverty in a multidimensional way. This means that we have as features two dimensions. Here we have the well-being dimension that is measured through current income per capita. The social rights dimension that is measured through social deprivations. These deprivations are attached to certain social rights that we have to measure by the social development law. These social rights are education, health, social security, housing, basic services, and of the dwelling and food access. And finally, there's also, it also says in this law that we need to measure the degree of social cohesion. This is made in a territorial way because it's not possible to measure for each individual with the data we have, the degree of social cohesion. These two spaces, well-being and social rights, are measured for each individual in the whole population. So, when do we say someone is poor? Well, here we have the well-being dimension, and we measure, as I said, through income, and we have the economic well-being line. This is like a poverty line, and it's the value of the food and non-food basket here in Mexico. Also, we have the space of deprivations. Here we have 0 deprivations, 1, 2, 3, 4 until 6. So we're going to say that a person is poor when they are here. This means that their income is below the economic well-being line, and also that that person has at least 1 deprivation. So we also establish this group which is the extreme poverty group. This group has different thresholds. The threshold is in the income dimension, is the minimum economic well-being line. This minimum economic well-being line is the value of the food basket, and the threshold in the deprivation space is 3 or more deprivation. So when someone is in extreme poverty, this means that their income is below the minimum economic well-being line and that has 3 or more deprivations. Also, we have these other spaces here, as you can see. We have vulnerable due to social deprivations, which means that a person has an income above the economic well-being line, but has at least one deprivation. The vulnerable due to income, that means that a person has 0 deprivations, but an income below the economic well-being line. And finally, the non-poor and non-vulnerable, who have no deprivations and an income above the economic well-being line. Finally, we have this group, which are those poor who are not in extreme poverty. We call them the moderate poverty. The sum of this both is the total poverty of the country. So, all of these things I talked about is done with cross-sectional data. So we wanted to make a panel survey for monitoring the 6 social deprivations. Why only the 6 social deprivations? Well, because it's easier. You need a way smaller questionnaire, and in order to measure income, you would need to have like a really big questionnaire. We couldn't afford that. So what was the objective? As I said, monitor the 6 social deprivations used to measure poverty in a sample of the population attended by CEDESOL, and also getting information about the social programs received by this population through time. I'm going to explain how we are meant to do this. First, let me talk to you a little about the social policy that's right now in Mexico. So, CEDESOL started a national strategy. It's called, I guess the translation would be National Strategy Against Hunger, which is the Cruzada Nacional contra el Hambre. And it started to focus in 400 municipalities. These municipalities have the characteristic that they have the highest percentage and highest number of people in extreme poverty and food deprivation. So, of course, not everyone living in these 400 municipalities are in extreme poverty and food access deprivation. That would be this group. So, on the other hand, CEDESOL has also this instrument called quiz. It's a questionnaire that has some relevant variables in order to measure the 6 social deprivations. We could use a quiz to measure them. So in these 400, and also the quiz is used to be able to know if certain persons would be beneficiaries of social programs. So using this information that was already there, that CEDESOL had, we decided to take our target population from here. So we would have those households with some member in extreme poverty and food access deprivation, EPFD, who benefit from social programs in the 400 municipalities. So that was our target population. And we already had this data from the quiz. Also, on the other hand, when we establish our sample size, we had the 2013 quiz, 2014 quiz. We used these 2 years because it's about the time when the national strategy began, and we wanted at first to look at only social programs that were in this strategy. So, and also, this is very important, we have the CIFORE. The CIFORE has information about social programs. And the good thing about this is that these are administrative records, but also that CEDESOL was working, actually has already done that, to have a unique ID so that we can link information from the quiz to the CIFORE. So with this, we will have socio-demographic information from the questionnaire, but also information about the social programs that people were receiving. So we made, with all this information, we made our sample for 2015. As I said, well, the sample is households with some member in BFD who benefit from some social program allocated in the 400 municipalities. Our target population was around 200,000 households, and the sample size was of 8,000 households. So the field work was in early July, and our first analysis of the database was published in August 2015. I like to remind you that all these, the document with some of these findings, and also the database is public, and you can download both of them from our website. Okay, so some results. What we first aimed to analyze was the social deprivations, first using both databases as cross-sectional data. I mean the quiz and CIFORE, and also on the other hand our sample. Then, since we in the sample we had also the unique ID, so we could join these two databases and have longitudinal data. So we would have data from the period of 2013 to 2015. And also some relevant comparatives about locality size, indigenous population, sex, and age. And finally, the CIFORE information, which are social programs, and also to establish a relationship with food access deprivation. So here we have the social deprivations using cross-sectional data. As you can see, all of them drop, which is pretty obvious because of the type of sample we have. We only went to households who are beneficiaries of some social program. You can see that the main drops are here in health, from 32.9 to 9.2, and of course food access from 100 to 42.5. As I said, we took households with at least one person in extreme poverty and food access deprivation, and you may wonder why is this number 100% if it was at least 1%. But the thing is that food access is measured at a household level, so if one person in the household has food access deprivation, then the whole household has food access deprivation. That's why this number is 100. And now we have using the panel. This is after we merged both databases and using only those registers that were in both in both years. So we have the numbers are pretty much the same. Also, the main drops are in health and of course in food access. Here, I don't know if you can tell the little numbers, but we have some population groups I'm not analyzing every one of them because of time, but you can see the one interesting thing that happened here is that in food access deprivation, almost every single group didn't vary. It was from 40% to 46% in 2015, which is something we didn't expect because of how heterogeneous are these population groups. And here, well, this is for me the best part of the analysis we've done so far. These are kind of transition matrices, and we've done one for each of the deprivation. These are the changes in each deprivation. In this case, we have education. And so we can see who went from 2013, 2014 non-deprived to deprived in 2015 and so on. We can see here that those who were deprived and then are not deprived in 2015 is 11.8 in the case of education. But something that really caught our attention when we were doing this was actually this number, because we didn't expect it to be this high. So when we started analyzing the data and the reason this 8.4 went from non-deprived to deprived in education, we realized that it was because of how we measure educational gap. So I'm going to tell you a little about this. We measure educational gap in different ways for adults and for minors. So in the case of adults, depending on the year they were born, the basic education that we consider as a threshold is the elementary or secondary education. But in the case of minors, if they have not finished their basic education, then they have to be attending school. And the reason why this percentage was a little high was that there were minors dropping out of school from this year to 2015. Well, between 2013 and 2014. Also, in the case of health, we here have a smaller percentage of persons who went from non-deprived to deprived. The big changes here, we can see that from deprived to non-deprived, it was 25.4%, which is a lot. This small percent may be due to people not reporting they were affiliated to some health institution, or maybe they lost their job and they couldn't be affiliated anymore. The same thing happens in Social Security, also from deprived to non-deprived, it's 11.1. This is a big percentage here, 86.3. That stayed deprived. Actually, when you analyze cross-sectional data from the past years, you can see that one of the main concerns in terms of social deprivations is actually Social Security, which has a big percentage of people not having Social Security. And then quality and spaces of the dwelling. This is some important case also. And the reason is this number, no? It's also quite big. So when we analyzed what was happening here, this was a little bit weirder because we were like, well, but if you had quality material of floors in 2014 and then you don't report it in 2015, that's kind of weird. That's something that may not change through times. But it's also the reason is the way we measure it. For measuring quality and spaces of the dwelling deprivation, we use four indicators, which are materials of floors, walls, and ceilings, and the reason of persons per room. So what happened here was actually that all these households that passed from non-deprived to deprived. Here I'm talking about households because this is one of the indicators that we measure in a household level. Were households that had more members in 2015 than they had in 2014. So the reason of persons per room got bigger, and they went from non-deprived to deprived in that particular indicator, which is the reason of persons per room. But if you are deprived in one of the four, then you are deprived in the whole space of quality and spaces of the dwelling. So that's what happened here. Then we have basic services of the dwelling, which is pretty much, we also have four indicators here, and if you are deprived in one of them, then you are deprived in the whole indicator of basic services. Here we couldn't establish just one cause of the several services because it's way easier to get no service of water or electricity, just paying or something like that. And finally, we have the change in food access deprivation. As I showed before, we had 100% who were deprived, and that passed from deprived to non-deprived. It was 57.3%. This may seem like a really extraordinary number, but we need to remember that the sample was only of beneficiaries of the national strategy against food hunger, so maybe it's not that good. It should be 100%. And finally, using all these administration, this information we had from that before, we were able to establish, in this case it's only in the case of food access deprivation, those who stopped being deprived in 2015. Here we have the social programs that they reported to have. Well, actually not they, but in Cifode. So we have that Seguro Popular was 46.5%, Prospera Oportunidades 24.5%, Programa de Apoyo Alimentario 10.8%, Liconza 9.5%, and the group of others, Charlotte, 11.2%. This won't add up to 100 because the programs are not exclusive. And we are working in actually having a more in-depth representation of the CIFODE information and to cross it with what we obtained from the panel survey. And finally, well, my conclusions of the study. We need to implement this kind of analysis in order to know the effect social policy has and the changes a certain group of population suffered through time. We realize this is important and kind of adapting a little what Lucinda talked yesterday about causes and symptoms to the Mexican case. I want to talk about a little, I like to rephrase this as symptoms and cures. We already have the symptoms, it's poverty and social deprivations, and we tend to believe that the cure is only and exclusively social programs. But we do not, I mean, the symptom we can see with the cross-sectional data, and we tend to believe that social programs would be the cure, but we do not have enough longitudinal data to know that. And that's why I like very much the example about quality and spaces of the dwelling, because in this case where you have persons who went from non-deprived to deprived in 2015, perhaps you could say that housing policy is actually working, but it was a problem of family dynamics or employment or something like that. So we really need to assume in this type of problems to establish these relationships. And also, well, there are many challenges we faced with this study because of the loss of information. I didn't mention it because I wanted to mention it till the end. We had, the follow-up was about 70%, and we thought it would be higher because we thought our population was captive, but they weren't. And also, I cannot stress this enough, we need to be very, very cautious in interpretation of this data because this is not representative of the whole population living in the 400 municipalities attended by CEDESOL. And well, this is a really nice way to complement the cross-sectional data we already have, but we cannot make inference to the whole population with this particular study. And that would be all.
Thank you very much. I have time probably for one question. It has to be a question. Yes, Petra.
I was wondering why you conditioned the initial analysis on having to be poor. You know, there are going to be some people that were not poor in the first time period, and then they become poor, and they're not going to be seen at all. So, was it out of concern that there weren't enough poor people in the first round, or because you could, as opposed to a random?
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, it was a problem of not having enough information about non-poor people, because since our framework was the information that CEDESOL gave us, and they mostly work with non-poor households, they had a lot of information about this, but not about the other part. And also, we only wanted to center our attention right now with this study and on how social programs are helping or not people who live in extreme poverty and food deprivation, which was the target population of the national strategy against hunger.
Yes, another question there, please.
Could you tell us a little bit more about how the 400 municipalities were selected?
Oh yeah, well, they were selected by CEDESOL, but what I know is that they use the information that Coneval has. Coneval has information on the municipality level about for 2012 and 10, sorry. And this information was used by CEDESOL, and they selected a group, I think it was about half and half, half with the high percentages of extreme poverty and food access deprivation, the other half who had persons in this condition.
Lucinda?
Thank you. It's really a point related to Petra's, because of how you selected your sample, because it looked like you had people in extreme poverty who weren't recipients of social programs, and yet you didn't sample them. But they will have a lot of dynamics as well, and so you can only look at what the social programs are doing if you include them in your sample. So I was very surprised that you selected conditionally, because you can't tell anything about what social programs do if all your sample is recipients of them. Seems.
Yeah, I know. It seems weird that we made that decision, but we actually had to begin with only this information we had. So what we tried to do was to save us like the baseline survey with the information we already had from CIFODE and WITH, so that would be our baseline, and then follow up only those households. Oh, what? What picture?
Lots of red dots who didn't and have a corresponding blue dots.
Oh.
Or why would you include those red dots without a blue dot, for example? Does that make more sense?
This.
Yes.
Okay. No, not really. Well, I'm going to try to explain. So
Why didn't you include these other red dots?
why we chose this? These red dots?
No, the 2013-14 one.
Ah, okay, yeah, I get it. Why these red dots and not these? Okay, maybe it's about how the graph is made, but these that are paired are actually individuals or households from which we have both quiz and CIFODE. Because there are some households that have quiz but not CIFODE information because they weren't beneficiaries.
But you want to include them, that was my point. Sorry, I went go on.
Thank you. No, it's quite
You
useful.
pass, that's all.
Quite useful, Lucinda. Thank you very much. The time is up, and our next speaker is yes.